April 3rd meeting of the Stormwater Management Advisory Commission. It is 3:05 and we'll get started. As a notice, I will read this. The meeting is being recorded by video and audio means. These recordings will be posted on the city's website for public viewing and listening. In-person attendees of the meeting will be included in this recording. By remaining in this meeting, in-person attendees agree that their images and or voices may be included in these recordings. That's it. With that, we have 3 members that have asked for exclusion today from today's meeting. There's Lou Ann,
Phillips,
Josh Dalton, and Barrett
Jenkins, and Jamon Taylor is officially still a member of the commission, so he has asked for an excuse absence as well.
And we know he's at Disney World. As he should be after 6 years serving and with spring break with his kids. If anybody would like to make a motion to excuse them, take that. Second by Melody, okay. And all in favor, excuse me? Okay, there we go. So, a small group today, we have 6 people. Thank you all for being here. Definitely know it's springtime and spring. The meetings were distributed by Scott. And if anybody has any, I guess, take a motion, then we have discussion about it. So is that how we do it? So take a motion for approval, then we could have discussion. Okay, so we have that motion to approve. Second. Melody, second. Any discussion on the minutes? Oh, okay. All in favor? Okay, there we go. Minutes are approved. All right. This is an in-person meeting. Looking for any persons who have public comment or signed up for public comment. Do we have a list?
I believe so. I believe Caitlin Hadberry. I'm not sure if she's in here today or not.
Okay.
She signed up for public comments, but I'm not sure if she's
Caitlin Adberry.
Kate Hadberry.
Okay.
Is Caitlin in here?
Caitlin? Okay. Let's see if she shows up possibly. Okay. All right. Also, we had a little bit of time set aside for city council member liaison comments. Hello. Our counselor is here. Sorry. Got her eating a snack.
Those are my favorite too. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
You want me to go now?
No, that's great. Yeah. So we have, since you have showed an interest in our meetings, which is awesome. And we kind of put aside 5 to 10 minutes, just if you wanted to bring anything from the table to talk to us about. Of course, you're welcome to interject throughout our meeting as, as conversation comes up, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to have the floor. So.
Thank you so much. Believe me, I can fill some 10 minutes. I will not. I promise I will not bore you with all of that. But thank you guys so much for having me. I did want to uplift that we did make a nomination in our last council meeting for a member of the Stormwater Commission. And so that will be coming back on April 15th to vote through to hopefully approve. She's a great candidate, has amazing experience from, I forget, I'm going to say the wrong country, but she's from somewhere in Southeast Asia that's dealt with these stormwater concerns over there. And really, she's a huge advocate for fighting for controls that really help the community. And she's continued that advocacy here with Power Up. So I'm really excited. She was co-nominated by me and the mayor. So please continue to send me if you guys have anybody that you think would be a great fit, let's do this together so that it's not, please don't wait for me to do all of the nominations. Please let me know. Want to definitely work in collaboration with you. I did not, because I know last month we were talking about that. You guys were number 5. We got those little prize and stuff. I wanted to mention it at council, but I know you wanted to bring it, so I kept my mouth shut. So I will wait for you to bring that. That is your thing to own. And I cannot wait to celebrate you as we continue that discussion. Other concerns from the table. I do want to, as I'm hearing from neighbors, and I want to pin it on your thought, on your head. We have increased infill development, as you all are very much aware of. And I am hearing from multiple areas from the city, especially in my district, in District E, about what that's doing to current development. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we are doing, this is about the noise ordinance. On May 27th in Safe Vibrant Community Committee to have a larger discussion, and that's related to growth and everything. But I want to do something like that related to stormwater control. Because I would think that neighbors, people who are experiencing it, kind of feel like they're in a silo. Like, I don't know who else has my same problem, so they don't know who to go to. I will continue to point them to your direction. But I think this is a big issue that we need to daylight as we continue to grow. You know, I'm so proud of Raleigh for being the #1 place for people to live and all of that. I love being #1, but I always tend to think of that. What is the underbelly of that? You know, yes, we're good, but what are the negative effects that we also need to address? And I think some sort of conversation like that would be very, very well received. So it's kind of in this brainstorming phase. I'm not very articulate in what I think it should be. But I would love your collaboration and where do you see that conversation happening and how can we get more neighbors to really be informed about what this is? A lot of neighbors don't even realize that they're in charge of their own stormwater measures and that is on them. And how do we make sure that that's clear? And how do we show them what we're doing in the future to help them as well? What programs are available? So just wanted to put that on your plates of just think, help me. There's no action items, but it's what's going around in my brain, and I'd love your assistance in really getting that word out. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. Tomorrow, I go on a cruise to the Western Caribbean, so I'm super excited to do that, and I'll be out until the next council meeting. But other than that, that's all I have for today. And if there's other things in the future you'd like me to bring, please don't ever hesitate. I would be more than happy to write those out for you, but that's all I have on top. So,
Can you say more about that,
my cruise?
position that you? Yeah, that too. We want to hear all about that when you get back, okay? But the thing you were talking about, of the appointment, the nomination of an individual.
Just randomly, and she was telling me her story and her story. So she came to one of our meetings, my first meeting that I attended with you guys, she also came to that one. And she was very interested in that moment. And so we had a conversation about something else. And as we were talking, she was telling me her history and what she'd done as advocacy in bringing stormwater concerns after a huge, I think in Southeast Asia, it was a huge typhoon that had hit their community. And she was advocating, had gone to like Congress, and she's actually going to Switzerland next month. She's been invited to speak, and it's really amazing. And so in that, it's really about that advocacy role that I thought, hey, that would be really cool to help teach us, again, teaching residents, because it's not just about what happens here, but how are we including others in the community so we can really fight this all together, and it doesn't need to be one off. So that's what I thought would be a benefit to the boards. But it's because we just started, I just started coming here, so I really don't know what your thoughts and concerns are. So sent it over to Wayne Miles, and I was like, is this kind of what we're thinking? And he was super excited. So that was for this one. But as more come up, definitely include your thoughts so we can.
But the role you're trying to fill, is that for somebody to advise the city council, or like, I was just trying to understand where the role sits.
It's for this.
It's to replace.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I should be.
No, I was just, I just
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's for this role. It's kind of because we're losing Reverend Taylor. We needed to fill that.
Okay,
vacancy.
I see. All
I'm so
right.
sorry.
No, I was just like, is this something new for the city council, or no, you're talking about this?
No, it's this board, and as you have positions that roll off, I don't want to, and we have some specifics, like from a nonprofit, and so we have some roles that we want to fill. But I want to make sure that I'm not just sending somebody completely random that you're like, what on earth are they doing here? Like I want to bring it to your attention so that you know what's coming and how we can possibly hold all of those ideas to make even a stronger.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
Real
Yes.
quick, with the thing that the Growth Natural Resources Committee that you talked about, you're kind of thinking of at the council table, that discussion will happen, or is it kind of an open house? Kind of like the comp plan open house thing, I mean, that explains the opportunity, kind of welcomes people in.
Sure. So the one that I referenced is actually, it's Safe, Vibrant, Healthy Community Committee. No, you're fine. And it's one of the 4. So we have strategic plan that has these ideas and, or has these key points. And then we have committees or council that follow those lines. And that's where our 4 committees come from. And so what I've sent to here, I try to do it, Safe, Vibrant, is the idea of noise. Now, that's a different issue. I have residents in my district who are saying, I've got trash coming at 2:00 in the morning and I hear crashing, all that. There's too much noise. There's bars right behind me. And so we're creating this mixed use city, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I think it's great, but we also have to address the concerns of the community. And so I sent it on May 27th. So that'll be at 11:30. And I'm telling a lot of people, whether that's my residents in 5 Points or Glenwood South, who's also experiencing that. As we note issues. I want us to have a bigger city conversation because even though it's Glenwood South and 5 Points experiencing it now, the way we want to grow, it's going to happen everywhere. So how are we going to, at the beginning of it, have conversations that help us grow and help us address problems before they even exist when you get out to like Lafayette Village or something like that. So that's the conversation that we're having at Safe Vibrant, and everyone's invited. It is a public meeting at 11:30. It's in council chambers. It's recorded, so you can watch it on YouTube if you can't attend. But what I feel is missing from council is that group discussion. What happens right now is we have a lot of amazing staff does a fantastic job of community engagement and they have a conversation, but we may not be there. So council doesn't really understand what that conversation was. So I'm trying to use committees as that way to have a more public conversation where council is in the midst of it and really heading that discussion. So that's the purpose of that one. And I'm just trying to say, if we can do something similar, maybe in growth and natural resources, to have a conversation like that, not that we should tie it to this specific conversation, but maybe if you guys have the time to watch that meeting and just see how it goes and then say, okay, could we have a different stormwater conversation, maybe in growth and natural resources? And then we can uplift that. So really just homework, nothing to, no action items, but just to say, let's make more conversations happen.
Okay.
Any other questions? These are great questions.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. We have Samantha and Lynn to talk about planning commission items. Next.
Yeah, I'll let Ben take the bulk of it, but we met as a group previously to just discuss a few. I think we have actually a handful of different different applications. One of them particularly we wanted to highlight is in the drinking watershed, so reminiscent of that Strickland Road rezoning case that some of you were there for. And so we lifted that one up along with a whole list of other cases.
All right, so yeah, we do have a decent handful here. We've got two rezonings that came out of planning commission and 4 rezonings that are at city council. And there's a text change, which Sal's gonna talk more about after me. I'm just gonna touch on that very high level, and she's gonna kind of go through more details. Planning commission, at their last meeting on March 25th, they talked about both these cases. The first one is Edinburgh Drive, Z1924, kind of off of Glenwood Avenue inside the Beltline here. Essentially, it's 3 lots today, and it's currently zoned R6, and they're zoning it to more of a commercial zoning. The long range plan, as I know it, or staff knows it, is it's 3 residential lots now. It's going to a model home with parking for a home builder. And eventually it'll go back to 3 single family homes. It's just there's some discussions that time frame and what that'll be. There is a stormwater project just downstream here, but this property actually drains out to Glenwood Avenue, so it shouldn't affect that stormwater project. And it was approved at the March 25th planning commission meeting, and the city council will be setting that public hearing at their next meeting in April, which is 4/15. Tentatively, the date requested by staff is May 20th for the public hearing, but obviously that could change before it's actually set. So tentative right now. And there's just an aerial photo of it.
How many acres?
0.78. And they've actually got a mass grading permit for this property, and they've already cleared it. If you drive past this area like I do every day, so it's already been cleared. So it doesn't look like this today, but it's cleared off. But they haven't got any building permits obviously for it because they don't have the zoning in place.
Can I speak on that one really quickly? I think we mentioned it last time. It is, when you showed that aerial view, I was like, that is not what it looks like right now. Everything has been cleared and I watched it as they did it. I wanted to, the time limit on that is 10 years. So they want to keep it as a model home for very mansion-like giant house. So that's what they want. And I think the hesitation, especially as we're in this housing crisis, is why would we approve them for this? And you can't even use this housing for 10 years when had they come with 3 different, then we could put somebody in housing. So I just want you to know what the conversation that council is having before it comes to us, as we have learned from the conversation at Planning Commission. So just giving you that little bit of heads up of what we're discussing and what will be brought to the table when it comes.
No, that's perfect. I wasn't sure of the time frame. So.
One question just about that. Given that they've already cleared the land, obviously, I'm assuming that there's some sediment control structures on the site.
Yep.
What happens to those if there's not, an approved development, in, the next?
So technically right now, they could put 3 residential homes on it. It's just, they're waiting on this rezoning to kind of put the model home and then a parking lot adjacent, because I think the parking lot is really what's keeping them from, they can't do that on like a residential lot because it's not zoned for commercial, and they're zoning it to a OX3, which is a commercial zoning that could potentially go up to 3 stories, so
Well, then that'll be more impervious.
theoretically, yes.
So then there's gonna, obviously, they'll follow the ordinances to account for that.
Yeah. But if their zoning doesn't pass, they could go ahead and build those 3 homes back by right now, it's zoned to R6, so.
Doesn't sound like there's anything too tricky for stormwater wise, it's just the project down the street.
Correct, the project down like the street is really what got this on our radar, to be honest.
It's all under, inside the regulations.
Correct.
There were some stormwater questions raised by a resident that lived on the Lake Boone Trail. But this property actually flows toward Glenwood Avenue, so it would not have any impacts on that resident.
Okay.
Did the city ever make them see that if it just stays bare for
Oh, yeah.
a certain time?
No, as far as like the grading permit and any land disturbance, they have 14 days to either work on that land or reseed it. And so we won't close out the permit until it's completely stabilized, so. Next one is 2500 Barwell Road, which is Z4724 out in the southeast section of town here. Much larger property, 43.7 acres. It's in District C. Currently zoned R4 in manufactured housing. Looking for R10 conditional use, proposed townhomes is what they're looking at. What they're doing here is the property goes up to here, and this is Walnut Creek through here, looking at the floodplain. So they're looking to keep everything out of the floodplain and on this side of the creek. So that's where they're looking to mass their development. Per the current UDO, just regardless of the rezoning, the FEMA flood or floodplain that's on site is not allowed to be developed, so they would have to say that anyway. But it is a good condition. I don't want to knock them down for making a condition that they'll only build on the south side of Walnut Creek. And this was also approved at the March 25th planning commission meeting, and the city council is decide the public hearing date on that on April 15th as well, and it's tentatively May 20th as well.
What kind of stormwater measures will that be?
They haven't done a site plan or anything yet. They've just done basic kind of what they could do. And the only reason I think we do townhome because there's very few things they can do with our tenant.
And just a point of information on that one, Partners for Environmental Justice did meet last night and voted to engage on that and ask for additional green stormwater infrastructure measures. So I think that they'll be engaging with
Yeah.
council and the developers. So.
Yeah,
Partners for Environmental Justice.
and the aerial really shows how what it is and undeveloped it is too. So there you go. Now just moving to the city council realm, we talked about this one last month. Z4024, Passman Drive, just outside the Beltline here in southeast. This was that one where there's a church in one lot, and they were selling this lot to a developer that specializes in affordable housing. It's gonna be 100% affordable housing. There were drainage concerns up and downstream. There is truckload flooding downstream, so by code, we will be holding them to the 100-year detention requirement for all their stormwater devices on site, and they did add GSI as a condition for this rezoning, and it was approved now 2 council meetings ago on March 18th by the city council.
I apologize to interject again, but I think this is a good example of conditions that we could be asking for. Looking at the GSI and 100-year storm planning, I think that's really above and beyond for them to want.
Yeah.
They also have some neighborhood concerns with drainage upstream, which city staff has met on site with them in the past 2 weeks, kind of talk about things like that, but they're worried about kind of maintaining the drainage pattern through the site too, so we haven't met with them to discuss that with Chaz's staff, Chaz Webb staff.
Is that currently an open channel through the site now? Or is there-
Yes, I believe so. It's definitely not piped.
Yeah.
I don't know how to define the channel.
That's right.
Can I ask a question just about the 100-year storm? When you put that condition in, are there multiple avenues to get to that? Like, are there different measures that you can take, or are there really just one thing that they can do?
There are multiple measures, but you're mainly just holding that stormwater back. So instead of like, from like an engineering standpoint, you've got a pipe coming out and you're kind of throttling that down. So it only lets that water go out at the pre-development level, which is the undeveloped level for the 100-year storm. And that's really being triggered because of the structural flooding. I don't want to point to it exactly, sorry, downstream here. And that's actually in our UDO, so we don't need the extra condition. So if anything developed here, it would have that just restriction on it. So that's good.
They were slightly more restrictive than,
That's true,
because the way the UDO is written, you can cause a 0.04 foot rise in the water surface elevation, and they were essentially saying they're going to keep that to 0. So it's a tiny bit more restricted,
Yeah, I apologize.
but easier to analyze. So,
That was a rounding error that we put into based on our work with FEMA flood studies, so. So this was a big one on Tuesday night, not really too many stormwater issues, but Villanova Center, Z 3824, West Raleigh, just off Wade Avenue and Blue Ridge. And so this is obviously going to a plan development in different phases to allow for high rises and more development and mixed use and things like that in the parking lot areas of the Lenovo Center, 80.7 acres. This is university property, so they do have their own NPDS permit, and so the stormwater permit falls under the university jurisdiction, but it's state-owned. Sediment erosion control falls under the state of North Carolina DEQ. But the site currently is approximately 59% impervious, and the public hearing was on April 1st, and it was held open until April 15th to work on some conditions for pedestrian safety and some other issues. There are neighbors that are downstream of Richland Creek, kind of in the Reedy Creek Road area, that had some concerns about sediment and stormwater and that sort of thing. And also Dr. Gene Spooner, if anyone knows that name, former NC State professor and advocate for the Unsaid Forest Coalition. So definitely want to keep an eye on this one as far as for sediment and humidity and water quality. But this was a very interesting case.
I just want to add, as I've spoken to, I've been in communication with that developer, they're actually going to take some of that impervious away. So in this, they're not adding, they're actually going to take some away. So that was a positive for the case, which helped a lot of the counselors get to comfort on it, is that they're actually going to be making more green space than is currently allotted.
And I know they're going for, the state hasn't approved it yet because it will be the state purview because of the use riparian buffer here, but they're looking for another entrance too as well here. They have the one entrance here, but they're looking for another one to cross Richland Creek by that greenway. But like I said, that's not been approved by the state or anything. That's this one was yes, this one was approved. Sorry, I just want to check my notes. As Matt knows, I was making changes to this presentation up to an hour ago. So I just want to make sure. E45, 24, this is what we've talked about as well. Up in the northeast side of town off of Litchford Road. Basically undeveloped lots going from R4 to R6 conditional use, and it's a proposed townhome project. They have it's 0.88 acres, and they've got a condition that they'll go no higher than 8 acres for the entire development. The drainage outfall for the drainage system will go to Litchford Road. There were concerns from the residents early on here about drainage, but per topo and also per our new stormwater design manual, all the drainage will be headed out towards Richmond Road here. And it was approved by city council on Tuesday, April 1st. It looks like good. Not the big one. Sorry to keep everybody waiting, but that's it, that's for last. C-3934 is 8415 Honeycutt Road. It is in the Falls Lake watershed. It's in, North Raleigh. And, undeveloped piece of parcel off of Honeycutt Road, north of Falls of Noose. Currently zoned R1 with, watershed overlay. The proposed zoning would be R6, conditional use with Falls Lake. This is obviously subject to the Falls Lake watershed regulations. Currently, there are no stormwater specific conditions, but it is a tentative date right now for public hearing of May 6th, 25, and that's of note because the next SMAC meeting will be May 1st. So potentially you could talk about this before it goes to public hearing, if that is the commission's want and desire. They do have a condition that's not necessarily storm related directly, but they're going to limit their units to 56, which is 66% of the allowable units that would be allowed under that zone. And it's outside of city limits, so it would be an annexation as well. This is what it looks like right now. But like I said, if we were to have a formal discussion at the commission level about this case, I know with our past case, the commission was asked to invite the applicant to come in and kind of talk about it too. So if you were to specifically talk about a case like this, that's why I put that date there, because you kind of do give a little bit of time before the public hearing. And just to go over the real quick Falls Lake regs, they are treating for nitrogen, which is like every other development in Raleigh, but they have to treat for phosphorus as well to a lower level as well as the nitrogen. And their max impervious for the site is 30%. And anything above that 24% impervious level, they will have to treat using GSI. And there's a 40% forestation requirement for the site as well, and that's beyond their regular tree conservation. So they're kind of highlights of what the general stormwater regulations are for a site like this.
Did it say outside city limits?
It is, but it's in our ETJ,
Oh.
or our, excuse me, it's in our extraterritorial jurisdiction. Sorry.
And just to remind folks that the last time we had a case that was in the Falls Lake watershed was on Strickland Road, and we had some concerns about it being, the intensity of development in the watershed. Pretty high up in the watershed, similar to this, but we definitely had some concerns. And as Ben alluded to, I went to council and I forget who else went to council, but it was recommended that we didn't announce that we were reviewing that case specifically. And so we don't typically do that in our meetings. We just kind of say, just what we've done, planning commission, SMAC liaison comments. Yet, as Ben alluded to, if we want to have further, more distinct dialogue, last time we wrote a memo saying, hey, we like these things, we don't like these things, and we're just putting our voice into the conversation. And council has asked us to do that on cases that we see of significance. And so if we want to go down that road, as was noted, we want to acknowledge that we're going to discuss it in May, basically. And we put this case individually on our agenda and spend, 5, 10, 20 minutes with the applicant and have them talk to us a bit. So if that's the will of the.
And I think just to elaborate more on, why SMAC would be concerned about, developments in the Falls Lake watershed, I think, first of all, they're somewhat rare, few and far between. And I think an important piece for me is that Raleigh created a future land use plan map that is intended to direct how we develop. And as part of that land use plan map specifically indicates that the Falls Lake watershed should be low residential and low development. And this is not consistent with the future land use map. And so that's something that I consider, this would be medium to high, I believe, development. And so that sets a precedent. And we did gain a lot of stormwater conditions during the last negotiation that we had. And one of those was the developer committing to set aside conservation land somewhere else in the watershed. And I think that we all agree that that was an important precedent, and so that could be something that we ask for again as a stormwater management commission.
And I just wanted to add on, because I was just on the phone with this applicant yesterday, because I raised those, like, hey, what's going on with stormwater? And what they said, and I wanted to fact check it with you guys, or I, pointed them in your direction, was because they're limiting it down from what is already allowed by saying the one unit per, 4 units per acre, that they were under the threshold that is already set for that watershed. So that's what they said, but I would love to connect you with them beforehand if I can get you to talk, because I don't know how to speak their language, so I would love for you guys to actually have those conversations rather than me, trying to speak for you.
And staff is happy to schedule like the applicant work on languages to that. So.
And as I understand,
understanding is that the density was in line with the comprehensive plan as opposed to the case on Strickland Road, where the density was not in line.
Right, and that's what they said. They said, explain to me what's the difference between Strickland in this case, and that's what they said to me. Exactly.
and the reason most likely they're going to R6 is so they can do townhomes instead, but they're living with an R4 density or something like that. So that's some kind of, that's 66% of allowable is, there's something in there that,
And they're leaving the option for single family. So they're thinking townhomes,
Okay.
but at the end of the day, they have both options. They
Okay.
can do either one.
So I guess, given our past experience and it is the Falls Lake watershed. Right? It is a place that matters to us, right? I do believe we would like to have a conversation further, with this group, if at all possible. Certainly you guys as staff may have conversations with them. And when you show up in May, you may be like, hey, we've talked to them, here are 3 things that they've suggested for you guys, so it doesn't need to be a full-blown presentation. We're just trying to figure out how to have a conversation with you to learn more.
I don't know if there's an applicant to do full-on presentations.
Yeah, we don't, 27 minutes we don't need. So I don't know how we limit that conversation or how we start that dialogue. Definitely it's on staff right now in the next month to have those conversations internally with the applicant if the applicant chooses to have a conversation with you guys.
And we're comfortable telling them there's a time limit if they'd like to talk to us.
Yeah.
It's not like carte blanche, you have a whole 2 hours or anything.
Yeah.
That could be at the chair's discretion if we want to set time limits for
Yeah.
some type of construction.
I mean, I think it would be most likely the case in general would be a 15 to 20 minute kind of form, and that's about it. So it's a 5-minute presentation and then just kind of a dialogue. So
Yeah, I think that's good.
I'm gonna suggest that, but if somebody wants to make any motions or ask any questions about this to Ben at this point.
I'll make a motion. I mean, I just think it's good for people to bring awareness to, the implications of building anything in the watershed.
So it's a motion to have them come to us in the May meeting. Okay.
Just for, like you said, you can set a time period so it doesn't go on and on, but just a chance to say, hey, there's people who are concerned about this.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
For clarity, just for council, in that discussion, is that gonna result in a possible memo? Just whether you like it or not, however, the things I think would be beneficial. What I will say is in the Strickland case, when it came right close to it, I know that the developer had some concerns because it felt like it was kind of like blindsided. So I want to make sure to be able to tell council what we're expecting to see from you so that that can't be used as an excuse. So,
Do you mind going back to the schedule? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, and this is tentative, so it's not, that public hearing has not been set, but that's just what I think.
So it'll be at the council table that you guys have to put it on the docket for
right,
public
so at the
hearing.
next meeting, we'll decide to put it on public hearing. So I want to be able to say to them, they're gonna go on stormwater here, so let's make sure we give them enough time to get a memo together to give it to us. So it may not be, it may be the next
It
meeting on
may-
the 6th, it might
okay.
be the 20th,
Okay.
but I want to be able to say that to them, knowing that you guys are gonna meet with them on the 1st.
That would be great if it'd be great if we had that additional time, knowing that.
And-
A little bit back and forth together.
And I think in a couple of weeks, I'll have some clarity whether they're willing to come talk too as well.
Okay, do you need a contact? You have that.
I'll just, yeah.
Got it.
I'll text your ambulance, but yeah.
Okay, so,
I'll write myself a note to say that.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of ask him to visit. Okay, we will, I guess, officially request that. If there's a staff meeting, so thank you. Put it on the agenda.
So the last piece that went to council on Tuesday was the text change authorization for a couple text changes that Sally's gonna talk to you about, which are mainly instigated by state ordinance. But I'll have her take you through the details, but it was sent to planning commission by the council on Tuesday, but it hasn't been finalized or anything like that. That's sitting at the planning commission is just the first step, like in the text change process, so we're still fairly young in that process.
Yeah, it just made sense time-wise
Yeah.
to take it to council for authorization and so we can go ahead and get on the agenda. So this is, we decided to pair two stormwater changes together as one text change authorization request. The first one is about, it's a very in the weeds change. So there is regulations that about what stormwater regulations apply based on the different size of property. So there's a set of rules under half acre to 1 acre and over 1 acre. And this, it used to be prior to us adopting the new use rules on May 1st, 2023. The rule was, it didn't matter how big your lot was. If you were building one single family house or duplex, you went by the same table of percent impervious that's in our regulations. So if it was zoned R1, you got 20%. If it was zoned R4, you get 38%. That was, and it didn't matter the size of your lot. The state rules changed, the new rules changed. We adopted those on 5/1/23. We are we adopted them in a slightly different way than the way that they're explicitly written in the state code, and that was allowed. Our regulations were reviewed by both NCDEQ staff and by the state's Environmental Management Commission. We were deemed to be in compliance with the new rules with how we adopted things. The difference is that we said, if your parcel area, the size of your lot is over 1 acre, the full traditional stormwater requirements apply. The exact language in the state law is if your limits of disturbance are over 1 acre. And so we have heard from a number of from residents of Raleigh, property owners, as well as significantly from the Wake County Home Builders Association, that for property owners that own a lot that is, say, 1.05 acres, they were being pushed into the full traditional stormwater requirements that were requiring them to build stormwater control measures on their property in many cases. And they said, well, the state is really saying limits of disturbance. So if we are not disturbing over an acre, we should be under this other set of rules. We analyzed how many parcels of Raleigh would this affect. We think it's about 1,000 parcels. Almost all of those already have a house on them. And so it would really affect them if they were to tear down and rebuild, although in some cases it could affect them if they were doing a really large addition. Like if they were taking a single family house and having a patio, a pool, an accessory dwelling unit and a garage, that might have, might impact it. We've been getting pressure on this from, like I said, residents and the homeowners association. We decided that this is reasonable to be based on limits of disturbance instead of parcel size in this very specific case of building one single family house on that lot over an acre. We're not changing any other size of lot rules. We basically, I think this would provide relief to some people who have those lots just over an acre who were getting into a tight squeeze because they couldn't keep under 5% impervious. So they were having to build stormwater control measures on their individual lots. I think it would have a little bit of impact on, how much impervious area is in the city and whether it's treated or not, but not a lot, because we do now have our lot grading plan requirements that apply to single family houses. Where you can't just put all your downspouts in one place and point them at your neighbor's yard. You do have to do something in between. So, this is a very unique change. We think it'll benefit some property owners, but not have a great. But if you have concerns or thoughts or ideas, love to hear those in the next few weeks. I think we're gonna look at the May Planning Commission text change committee.
So when would traditional stormwater requirements kick in for your situation?
So in this situation, if their limits of disturbance or how much ground they're disturbing went over an acre. So if somebody was doing, a really, they were doing the new house, the new driveway, the new pool and the ADU, that could be over an acre. And then the full stormwater requirements would kick in. Full stormwater requirements kick in at this, we actually just.
So let's say you have a 2-acre lot.
Yeah, so if it's a 2-acre lot with one single family house and they disturb less than an acre, that would apply. If they're doing townhouses or apartments or commercial, it's not changing when those traditional or full stormwater requirements kick in. That's not changing. It's only the one single family house that would be changing.
Okay.
What if I were doing, so I did the driveway in the house, and then I did the pool, the ADU, the garage, 3 years later,
That's something.
5 years later, what's the?
Yeah, that is something that is not clear, and I'm going to be asking NCDEQ for clarification on. They do say that we need to track.
So people
Situations.
pull permits, for example.
Well, so the issue is, we're supposed to anticipate when the total might go over a certain threshold, which is hard to do. That's why we had based it on lot area. And so I need clarification from the state. If somebody does the house and they disturb a half acre, and now they come in 3 years later to disturb a different half acre, does that kick in the rules? Or because this was a half acre and this is a half acre, did the rules never kick in? And I'm not clear on that, and we'll be seeking clarification from the state.
And what about like you subdivide a lot?
Oh, if you subdivide a lot,
Then it goes back to.
it's gonna be under these, like if the total area that's being subdivided is an acre or more, the traditional stormwater requirements kick in. If it's townhouses, apartments, or commercial, that threshold is half acre. So that remains unchanged. It's really just a benefit for single family property owners. All right, the second thing that we are changing is based on a state law that was adopted in 2024. And this is where I get to be the face of decreasing the stormwater regulations, which is not my first choice, but so this state law talked about the built upon area. Built upon area is essentially equivalent to impervious area, but this law specifically defined how decks, artificial turf, and gravel will be treated as built upon area. And it says that no local government can be more stringent than the state. So in our current regulations, a slatted deck is 30 to 50% impervious, depending on what's underneath. Most of them are 50%, counted as 50%. Per the law, we cannot count this at all as impervious. has to be 0% impervious. We will, of course, specify that if you have, say, a concrete slab under the deck, that is impervious. Or, something my team brought up is like, if it's a second story deck and then you have like plastic sheeting to keep the rain off of the level below, that would be impervious. So we will have to carefully define that. But that is one piece. We also need to deal with how this will be handled in our stormwater billing system. And that might be a phased in approach. Artificial turf is another thing that apparently is a hot topic these days. We get a lot of questions about artificial turf. So our currently it's somewhere between 0 and 100% impervious. In our current regulations, and really it's 0% or 100%. And that's because currently we require you to meet the state's requirements for permeable pavement, which involves doing a soil test to see if the soil infiltrates. And then having a gravel base that will allow that water to infiltrate into the soil. This law says basically, if you install it over something pervious and you follow the manufacturer's specifications, it's considered pervious. We will be putting in some stuff there about, obviously, if you install it over concrete, it's not pervious. It's been suggested to us that if you have under drains, then it's not infiltrating and therefore it's not acting like a pervious surface. So this is, I need to get a little more information probably from the city attorney's office and the state about the details of how we enact this, but that's another piece we're looking at. And then the gravel one is the most complicated one. So currently we treat gravel as 100% impervious. The exception has been some cases where people have said, hey, this is just my mulch and my flower bed. That we've worked with people on those, but in general, we treat gravel as impervious area. The state law has two things. It says, if you use 57 stone, which this is what 57 stones looks like, it's regular gravel. And it's 4 inches thick over geotextile, that's considered pervious. And then if it is placed in an area that will not be compacted by the weight of a vehicle, then it's considered pervious. And so that is obviously trickier to determine. So we need to figure out how to do that. Also, the way it's written is that somebody can claim this exemption or not. So somebody could say, well, I have a bunch of gravel in my lot. That's existing impervious. But I'm adding gravel. No, that stuff's pervious. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how to write this section. That's it.
Real quick on that. So is the ore, is that tied to 57 stone or any gravel?
This is not tied to 57 stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a challenge to sort out.
Yep, that was it. And please contact me if you have any questions or concerns as we're drafting it. We can, address that sort of thing.
So do you think, when the state law, how soon does the city have to be in compliance with?
That is one of the questions that's on my list of questions for the city attorney's office right now.
Okay, we're gonna go back up a little bit. We're gonna go to the commission, stormwater staff update, it matters of importance. This is where Wayne gets the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board plan is in your agenda packet. There is a rainwater rewards, one of your quarterly updates also in the agenda packet. And if you do have questions on that, Justin will be up in a moment on the next rainwater rewards item. So I'm glad to answer any questions. A few staff updates. We do have some new staff here with us. I'll ask them to stand up as I introduce them. First, we have Suleiman Ingram, who's an engineering specialist in the SEM compliance team. He is a recent graduate of UNC Greensboro with a bachelor's in biology. recently completed an internship with Raleigh Water, where he worked with historical as-built and update records for asset management and analysis. He's also experienced in the nursing, health, and wellness fields with UNC Health, Duke Regional Hospital, Cone Health. And Suleiman is passionate about doing work that benefits the public, and we're excited to have him on our team. Welcome, Steve. Another new staff, we have Caroline Althizer has joined the infrastructure CIP team as an engineer in the quality control and construction management group. Caroline will be contributing to the CIP project management and assisting Desmond with our utility coordination. She comes to us from a local consulting engineering firm where she spent the past 4 years as a project engineer in their stormwater group. She has graduated from an NC State's Bio and Ag program, and she earned her professional engineering license designation last fall. Welcome, Caroline. And last, we welcome Dennis Trujillo, has joined the infrastructure CIP team as a senior engineer in the quality control and construction management group. Dennis comes to our group directly from Raleigh's roadway design and construction group, where he was a senior engineer, project manager since 2022. Dennis will assist with capital and drainage assistance, stormwater projects, as well as be coordinating with stormwater maintenance on in-house construction projects. He's originally from New Mexico, where he grew up in a construction family, building everything from land development infrastructure to new homes. He's a graduate from New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology in 2017, and he moved to Raleigh in 2021. Welcome to the team, Dennis. And then, Drew Gentry is here. Would Drew come? I'll make a quick announcement. Drew Gentry is a new addition to our green stormwater infrastructure maintenance crew. And he will serve as the senior horticultural specialist. He started his resource management journey 20 years ago with an internship with the National Park Service, where he specialized in exotic plant management team and worked across the country to control invasive plant species. So we're very happy to have Drew as part of our green stormwater infrastructure team. Okay, moving to high priority topics, a reminder, we do have our stormwater FY 26 budget presentation to City Council at their upcoming budget workshop on April 7th. That's this coming Monday. Everyone's welcome to attend it if you'd like, or it will be streamed. Find a web link in the agenda here for upcoming stormwater public meetings. The one in particular we'd like to announce is Friday, April 25th. That is the city's Earth Day celebration, which will be at Nick's Park again this year. And we will be presenting awards to the winners of the Capture It contest, which you all voted on last time. So thank you for your help with that. And then lastly, notices for construction to start within the 90 days. Glenwood Dacian Stormwater Improvements Project, a citywide stormwater pipelining project, asset rehabilitation services, the Spotswood project, and stream project, where we did a tour just last month. So that project will be starting construction soon, very soon. Agavian repair, the Glenwood Creston Stormwater Improvements Project, that is near 5 Points. And I'll note, there was a WRAL story, a very positive story. The residents seem excited about that project getting started. So you can Google search that if you're interested. The Lions Park Green Stormwater Infrastructure, that one has received some ARPA funding. And then 3 drainage systems projects, Taylor Court, Somerton Drive, and Laurel Manor. So keep an eye out on those. Lots of work beginning here soon. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The environmental awards, what time is that? Roughly like 5 o'clock start?
That sounds right. Yes.
It seems like it's not a 7 o'clock start, so it's a Friday, come out. There have been food trucks and stuff?
There will be food trucks. Yes, correct.
It's the environmental awards are association with the Environmental Advisory Board. Stormwater Capture Award will be there. Environmental Advisory board gives out a collection of awards, and then there will be trash and competition from solid waste, which is kind of phenomenal. So students make fashion out of stuff, recycled goods and trash, and it's well worth the free cost of admission. It's pretty awesome, so.
And lots of tabling events. Stormwater will have tables as well as many other departments will have tables at the end as well. Great event.
All right, thank you for that. Let's see, Justin, you're here to talk about R3 stuff.
Yep, no real prepared presentation, just it's a consent agenda. If there's any questions, happy to take them, we'll field them as needed.
So we have the Epperly Court, 3648 Epperly Court and 213 Duncan Street. Do you mind going through the two, just to get me up so we see it? Okay,
And all this is
in
in
the
the
packet.
attached in the backup memo.
And then the next one, sorry, thank you. So 11, 13. Both within the metric that we set. Does anybody have any questions? I guess, well, if we take a motion and then we can have questions, I guess. Motion.
Motion to approve these Green Letter Rewards projects.
Motion. Second, Robert, any discussion or questions for Justin and the team? Oh, okay, all in favor? Thank you, Justin.
Thank you all.
Okay, so updates on stormwater's public education outreach and participation programs. We have Dory and Heather. So,
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Heather. I'm Dora. Yes, Heather Dietrich, water quality supervisor, and Dory, our community relations analyst. Thank you. And we're really excited to talk to you about our engagement for water quality protection. So when we talk about engagement, we're talking about our public education, outreach, and participation programs. And we believe that education and outreach is really foundational. It leads to many things, including our public participation. But importantly, it promotes awareness of some of the key water quality issues here in Raleigh. It encourages that community engagement and feedback. It builds community trust, knowing that we're all in this together. And most importantly, it drives that collective action that we need with the community to address some of these complex water quality issues. It is also required by our permit, but that's besides the point. But that is why, that is driven by the Clean Water Act. So that's why the education and outreach that we will be talking about today is really focused on water quality. Our team is relatively small as far as dedicated staff for public education, outreach, and participation. In the water quality section, we have about 1.5 staff members, one of which is standing right here with us. Joyce Gaffney was not able to be here today, but you definitely will see her represented in the slides. But we work with the Raleigh Stormwater team, as well as our community partners and SMAC and our community members to really do a lot with those few number of staff. In the past 6 months, if you want us to throw up some numbers, we were able to go to 46 events, and that reached 2,000 people in person. We also, in addition to those events, go to schools, and that's elementary, middle, high school, and higher education. So in the past 6 months, we were able to visit 12 schools in person to reach over 1,000 students. And that's anything from these interactive activities to STEM career fairs to presentations and tours of GSI for NC State, for example. And then we also offer about 4 workshops each year. These are stream monitoring workshops, as well as rain garden and rain barrel workshops. These are kind of smaller group interactions with people. And we've had 3 workshops already, and the next stream monitoring workshop is in May. So I have to mention Ariel as well. Ariel is wonderful in getting some of that virtual outreach out there through social media and in person as well. But we do partner with regional collaborations. So the Clean Water Education Partnership, if you've heard of that, it's really a collaboration of many municipalities in the region. And they are really great in helping to extend our reach through mass media campaigns. So just in Raleigh in 2024, they actually reached 3 million impressions through their mass media campaign through digital media, radio, cable and streaming television, as well as newspapers, including La Noticia. They also help coordinate Creek Week, which Dory will talk about in a minute. So it's just a really wonderful way that we can support a regional partnership and get a little bit more for our investment. And you all, each of you actually represent a diverse stakeholder group. So we appreciate the questions that you ask us. We also appreciate you taking this information out to your community. We have wonderful guest presentations here, along with our staff presentations, where we try to share as much information as possible, and you can take that to your communities. And then we've added these wonderful project tours to give you a little bit more of that field experience with us. But it is a very important opportunity for public input with the public meetings here, with the community input that we have, and these streamed virtually as well. So we try to really make it easy to participate in stewardship. So some of these programs like Buffer Builder Bag, our pop-up stream cleanups, and our storm drain marking programs, very little time for staff to interact with people with very lasting impacts. So Dominic and Chaz and this team have distributed over 2,000 Buffer Builder Bag plants. You know, just short interaction, but those plants can be growing along our riparian buffers for years to come. Pop-up stream cleanups, we usually offer 2 of these per year. City staff do all the organizing. You just have to show up. We have all the equipment. For example, in our last spring stream pop-up, we had 22 volunteers and they took out 1,400 pounds of trash in that short time. And then our storm drain marking, you know, this is something that parents can do with kids, teachers can do with students, you can do this with your grandparents. We want to make sure everyone can mark storm drain. We provide all the materials. There are plenty of storm drains unmarked currently, but last year, 274 storm drains were marked by our volunteers. And you saw this called ripple effect. So what we're trying to show is that these initial engagements really can create these lasting impressions, these greater impacts. Our stream monitors, let's say this individual, they went to our stream monitoring workshop, spent a couple hours with us, and then they dedicate their time to monitor a stream in their neighborhood for at least 10 months a year. That's a significant commitment. And they provide that data to us, which we publicly share with the community. Some of our stream monitors have been doing this for years. So it's really neat to see the changes over time that they are helping us collect. Adopt a stream. Have y'all seen these signs out? Anyone? Okay, good. I smile every time I drive by one. So these are adopt a stream signs. They are recognizing groups of people that have dedicated at least 2 stream cleanups per year to a certain stream segment. And we want to recognize them because they are doing a lot for our staff. They are actually coordinating these events. They're getting their communities out. They're coordinating the data collection to us. So it's a lot that they are doing. We just provide the materials. We have over 900 volunteers in our Adopt a Stream program. And in a year, last year, more than 25,000 pounds of trash they removed from our streams. And then y'all know about Raleigh Stormwater Awards. We promote this awesome program at almost every education and outreach event we do. So someone can come to our rain barrel or rain garden workshop. They're like, oh, let's get a rain barrel, or I really want a rain garden. And we say, we know how you can get that. And so they might start with a rain barrel and then they're like, I'm not catching enough stormwater. And then they want to have giant cisterns that they can paint. And these are 5 years, 10 years, for as long as you might have them at businesses and homes. And so again, just a little bit of outreach and education can have these lasting impacts. Hand it over to Dory.
Thank you. Yeah, so everything that Heather just mentioned is really important. We love doing it, and it's part of our permit. We're required to do it. But we want to continue to go above and beyond and make sure that our outreach is always collaborative, always community-based, and uses a bunch of different skill sets beyond just what you might think about when you think of stormwater. So something that we really want to utilize is community science. Heather was just talking about our stream monitoring program. That's kind of key community science right there. We're asking people to go out, collect data, monitor a stream for an extended period of time, and report back to us. And by doing this, we can enhance understanding, work together to identify solutions, and work together also to spread and share community knowledge. It's not just us sharing knowledge with them, it's everyone sharing knowledge back with us as well. And so that's not our only community science program. We have Creek Week. Wayne read off of all of our Creek Week events for the past few months. Thank you for helping us promote that. But Creek Week this year, Joyce, Ariel, Heather, and I kind of had a big goal of essentially doubling our in-person events, kind of having more of a community science lean towards them. So our biggest community science event was our iNaturalist Biothon, where we had a project set up on iNaturalist. People could go out to our GSI, specifically Wooten Meadow Park, and take photos, videos, audio of different wildlife or plant life that they heard there, upload it to the project, and that data is all publicly available and geolocated to that GSI. So we had some intrepid volunteers come out through a rainstorm and collect some pretty awesome data for us. Might be kind of small to see, but we have frogs or toads, salamanders, flowers, all the above. Overall, they identified 29 species, so they were very enthusiastic for going out in the middle of a rainstorm. We also, like Heather mentioned, have our stream cleanups, we also had our stream bank planting, which was a new event we added on this year, which was led by Dominic Smalls and Danny Hanant. And those programs aren't necessarily like going out collecting data or monitoring for an extended period of time, but there's an incredible amount of knowledge sharing that happens at those events. People share their observations of where they see trash kind of collecting and pooling. They'll tell that to me and Joyce. We'll make a note of it for future reference. We'll share our insights back with them, and there's just a lot of back and forth that goes on during those 2 hours. And by these numbers, I think you'll see that we get a lot done during Peak Week, especially. During our stream bank planting of our 26 volunteers, within 1 hour, they planted about 450 live stakes, which is incredibly quick and incredibly effective. We're gonna give them more to do next time. And then our cleanups we combined our adopt the stream cleanups and our stream pop-up to get a total of 3,000 pounds of trash removed during that 1 week. Like I said, with our biothon, we had 29 species observed, 42 observations. You didn't have to go to our in-person event and observe something. You could also remotely identify something later. And I believe about half of our observations are correctly identified with 2 or more identifications and are now considered research grade, meaning they can be used in future research. We also had our Rain Garden, Rain Grill workshop that Heather mentioned, and a new workshop with our Lions Park GSI, which we're having public art installed as well, so we can get community input on the type of art they would like to see there. That's not our only community science route. We also have our GSI visual monitoring program. So if you have visited Glen Eden, Walnut Creek, or Wooten Meadow, you might have seen a sign that looks just like this. They all look the same, where you can set your phone up and take a photo of GSI at the same angle as everyone else. This means that over time, as people take images, submit it to us, we can get a whole collection of data that shows us how seasonal variation, extreme weather, or any other external factors might be affecting our GSI. It also helps us know if there's any maintenance needs that our GSI might need that we can point to our new GSI maintenance team towards, or alert any park staff about. In addition to images, we also ask people to share any observations that they note there. So people can share if they saw any trash or pollution in the GSI. Usually they say no to trash, and if they do, they tell us that they picked it up, which is great. We definitely want them to help out with that. People can also let us know if they see any wildlife. Usually we hear that there's some pollinator species, some rabbits, just kind of little guys who are using the GSI as a habitat, which is awesome. And lastly, they can also share any general feedback or comments with us. And this is where we hear a lot of people expressing interest in using GSI as nature connection. Maybe they work in an office building all day, and this is their only opportunity to go for a walk and really connect with nature. So we're happy that our GSI can provide all those ecosystem services in addition to just being a water quality measure. So also with our community science, we want to make sure that our data is accessible. So all of the data from the GSI visual monitoring has always been publicly accessible. From the beginning of the program, when people submitted the form, all the images and feedback were sent to a GIS database. But just to make it more accessible and give it more context to the data that we had there, I created a collection of story maps that kind of introduce people to what GSI is as a whole, why we want to monitor it, and then different site-specific information for each park that has this visual monitoring station. So if there's any specific site characteristics that people might want to learn about, they can learn about it all at our story map. And if you guys want to explore the story map as well, you can go to raleighNC.gov, search up GSI visual monitoring, should come up. Yeah. So also want to extend beyond the STEM side of science. We also have a lot of creative people in Raleigh who are really invested in our stormwater system. We want to make sure to hear from them, give them opportunities to engage and collaborate. So like with our Alliance Park GSI mosaic workshop, people could create different wildlife or what they might want to see in that public art that's coming up. We also have ongoing partnerships with Raleigh Arts to create temporary art installations. And I really want to highlight this here. This was created by, I think, 4 Explorers 8th grade students who were really inspired by what they learned about stormwater in their classroom and they approached me in stormwater, and I connected them with Raleigh Arts about installing some art at storm drains near Weaver Street Market downtown. So April 29th, this is getting installed. So if you go get a copy of Weaver Street, check out the storm drain art as well. And so in continuing our collaboration with the park and with our community and community partners, we recently started a partnership with Urban Sustainability Solutions, which is a nonprofit that leads rain garden apprenticeship programs. Which I'll break down the next slide. There's a lot of moving parts to this apprenticeship, so bear with me for a moment. So USS will lead a GSI workshop for teachers. It's a 2-day workshop. Teachers will receive a stipend and a rain garden certificate at the end of it. During the workshop, they will learn about GSI, water quality, stormwater, everything they need to know to help USS lead a 6-week-long after-school apprenticeship for high school students in Raleigh. That apprenticeship will be a mixture of in-class, remote site visits. And once the students complete the coursework, which is completely state aligned, state science standards aligned, they will participate in the installation of a GSI device through the R3 program. So those R3 projects will operate the same as every other R3 project, and you guys will get to vote to approve them like you just did. The first one will be coming through in May, so keep an eye out for that. Once all of that is complete, students and teachers will receive a stipend as compensation for their time and effort in that whole project. So, like I said, there are a lot of moving parts to this apprenticeship. And so we have a lot of goals that we want to meet with it as well. So the first being professional development. When I go out and I talk to teachers about what barriers they may have to introducing stormwater or water quality to their curriculum, there's 2 things I hear almost every time. That's always there's not enough time in the curriculum and that they don't have enough professional development opportunities. So by providing a paid professional development opportunity where they not only can gain the confidence to teach about this in the apprenticeship and hopefully beyond the apprenticeship in their classroom next year and the year after as well, and receive a certificate in the rain garden certificate. We are providing them with those professional development opportunities. We also want to make sure that we are addressing inequities in education. So all of the schools that USS has identified to work with or will work with in the future are on the list of low performing schools. So we're providing students with not only academic opportunities and professional growth, we're providing them with academic opportunities and professional growth to address these inequities. And lastly, as students go out, they're not just learning about this stuff in a classroom, they're going out and applying what they learn in a classroom to a real world setting and finding solutions that maybe will affect them down the line in their future careers, or just any issues that they identify in their neighborhood or community that they want to find a solution for. So the first cohort has begun. They will be doing their site visit in early May. And we will be having community meetings throughout the apprenticeship as well to raise awareness for the program. And that first community meeting will be sometime in April. I'll have more details on that later. So while this program is new for us, it's not new overall. USS has worked in Orange County and has had a pilot project in Raleigh before. And students in those earlier iterations of the apprenticeship were included in a statistically valid study that demonstrated that students experienced statistically significant improvements towards their beliefs and attitudes and their intentions for behavior changes towards positive environmental goals. So overall, the study concluded that students, in addition to receiving more knowledge and improving their environmental literacy, also saw increases in their beliefs and attitudes towards positive environmental changes and intentions to engage in positive environmental changes. So to summarize, in addition to all of those environmental literacy, beliefs and actions, all those benefits, you'll also see some lovely new R3 installations through this program and have lasting impacts on our students that will hopefully carry them into their future careers, whether that's academic, professional, whatever they take away from the program. And we always love to hear from our students and have a lovely quote from one of the completers last year. So, yeah. We also have a USS representative with us here today, so if you have any questions. Urban sustainability solutions. No problem.
All right, and briefly, we'll try to hit on our wonderful trash trap partnership. You know, this is a way that the city of Raleigh Stormwater is really partnering with partners that are doing the best that they do. They're passionate about this work, they're advocates for this work, and they are incredibly effective in mobilizing the community to come out to our events. This is actually a ribbon cutting at Stony Brook Road with Sound Rivers, Great Raleigh Cleanup, and this is Joyce Gaffney. You see her, our colleague, our 0.5 FTE for her volunteer programs, and she is our litter liaison. But we really appreciate working with community partners. One, we're supporting them, but two, they're supporting us in the work we're doing. This was actually covered by WRAL, thanks to some of our community partners, also Community Connections. You see Joyce was able to get an interview there. So a way for us to broaden our outreach through our community partners. This program actually started with the Walnut Creek Trash Trap. It's still there with permanent educational signage. We take people by that trash trap every time we're giving a GSI tour out at the Walnut Creek Wetland Park, and it is constantly collecting trash. We have 2 new Marsh Creek trash traps that the city is actually sponsoring, again, in partnership with Sound Rivers, who is helping to manage these traps and maintain it by the Great Raleigh Cleanup. 200 pounds of floating trash has been collected since October 2024. I say floating because that's light, so that's a pretty big deal. And this is all in support of a greater litter study with all of these partners here. We have a coalition where we are inventorying the trash that is trapped. They're actually tracking trash as it moves through the watershed. And most importantly, we're testing interventions. So not only do we want to remove trash once it gets in the creek, we want to stop it from getting there in the first place. So it's a very important study that's being done. And then just briefly, the workforce. Dory talked about this amazing workforce development for rain gardens. The workforce, thank you to everyone that's supporting that. That's by a lot of internal partners. Sound Rivers and the Great Raleigh Cleanup is helping to employ, look at a short-term basis, folks experiencing homelessness as a stepping stone to some more permanent employment options. So we're very proud to be part of that as well. All right, we're wrapping it up, guys. We just want to tell you, leave you with this thought, that we're going to keep striving to ensure accessibility with all these programs. Always go above and beyond what's regulatory required. We want to reach new audiences, identify new tools, and again, utilize that community knowledge and feedback that we're receiving. We have some cool new events. I want to give credit to Dory. We're doing some trailside pop-ups at Lake Johnson Park, so folks can just walk by, get some information about stormwater. We are workshopping this title, Only Rain Down the Drain Coffee Shop Pop-Up Challenge. It's a mouthful, but it's so fun. So Dory was thinking, where are people on a Saturday morning? They're at your local coffee shop. So we have a lot of storm drains that need marking. We talked about that. So we are going to work with Left Hook Coffee as our first community partner. They're going to help us advertise this need and this challenge. People are going to register. We'll have all the stuff there. They're going to run out, get their selfie with their marked storm drain, come back, and the first 10 folks will get a nice City of Raleigh coffee mug. So we are trying to be creative to get, meet people where they're at. For those of you that don't want to be out in this pollen season, we are also trying to enhance our digital tools. Please visit those story maps. They are awesome. But Dory's also working on a GSI virtual tour for us too. And then finally, we're all going to keep working together. You'll see familiar faces here, Raleigh Stormwater staff. We cannot do it alone. Thank you to you all and council. We're getting a lot done in the community, thanks to you all. This was the During a rainbow break during the torrential rainstorm at the Violet Pond, but we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, just so we understand, maybe it's for Wayne. You guys are focused on the water quality side, working with Ariel and the rest of the communications team inside the greater. So I'm just give a little bit of understanding so that we understand how the department and division is set up. So from a communication standpoint.
Yeah, and this program grew out of, I mentioned it started out as a permit requirement and the NPDES former permit is really focused primarily on water quality. So it grew from that. And the emphasis is very much water quality is why it's housed in the water quality team. But there's obviously carryover. GSI provides not only water quality benefits, but all the aesthetic benefits, the social benefits, and resilience and benefits from flooding perspectives as well. So there's so much overlap here. I don't want it, it's not in a silo and I don't want to put anything in a box. It's very much integral to all of our programs.
Really great.
Yes. Question. As you were going through, and we're talking about GSI, I've recently been in contact with Downtown Raleigh Alliance, so Bill came from there. And his question to me was, Christina, what is biophilic cities and how should I be doing this? And I was like, I only have this much information. So is that something that I could send him to you to learn what he can start to ask others to incorporate as we design and as we build out downtown? I think that too much or maybe something.
We would love to talk to him about that. I guess the lead is in parks, and we could definitely connect him with that person as well. But certainly our GSI is one of those reportable metrics that they are including in the reports on the biophilic network.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just mostly comment, just thank you. This is one of the most encouraging presentations I get to hear during my workday. So thank you for that. I'm especially excited about the youth engagement programs. As a former high school teacher, I really resonate with the problems that you all are addressing with kind of creating opportunities for after school and for, creating monetary availability for people engaging. I did have a question about your stream monitoring program. I think that's awesome. And I'm wondering, we've been toying with this idea in my line of work and kind of what that would look like. And do you feel like you get the most benefit out of, the actual scientific data that's being collected and given to you? Or is it more about community engagement? Or do you find that you're getting kind of both equally?
It's really for community engagement. We don't actually use it's Lamont testing kit. So it's a very simple tablet testing kit. It's really about getting people to take notice of their streams, value those streams, and tell their neighbors about it. And to have some data up there just so people can see that people are monitoring these streams, they care about them, and there's data out there that they can see changes that they're.
And I kind of have a problem sometimes when I go to the website, there's so much out there. I'm just I'm going here to pay my water bill. But, how do you actually find you, clicking through the website?
Yeah,
The workshops, for example.
Yeah, so if you go to the education or outreach or the volunteer pages, all of our upcoming, if it's the stream monitoring workshop, that'll probably be housed under our volunteer page. If it's the rain garden, rain barrel workshop, that'll probably be housed under the education page. But those are the two, we post everything on those two pages. So that's a consistent, good way to go find them. Yeah.
And you can search stormwater volunteers at the RaleighSU.gov webpage too.
Okay. Good to know.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you. We now have, Megan talking to us, Megan Walsh, talking to us about the Millbrook Exchange Park Stream Repair Project. And then we do have an optional field trip tour after we close the meeting. Everybody wants to go.
Hello, I'm Megan Walsh. I'm a senior stormwater engineer within the water quality group. So I work under Heather. And most of the work that I'm involved in is implementing water quality CIP projects. So green stormwater infrastructure, stream restorations, a lot of these nature-based solutions to our stormwater problems. So today I'm going to talk about the Millbrook Exchange Park Stream Repair Project. if I had to dub it with another name, I would almost call it the Tale of Two City Projects. Because we're gonna go through, and it is two projects in one, and it was the best of times and the worst of times. Just kidding. No. When I'm talking about two projects, within, well, in each other, we're gonna go back to 2018 and before, talk about some of the initial problems observed in the tributary, what the initial solution was, and some of the problems that were faced with this. It was an innovative project at the time, so we were trying some new techniques, seeing how they work, and then how we came around to finding a final solution that so far here in the ground seems to be working. So. Project location, we're all here, so this is a little bit easy. But within Millbrook Exchange Park, and somewhat of the backside of the park where it's a little bit more wooded, oh, sorry, this is the park. Wooded is the project extent. It's about 700 linear feet of stream repair. And it's actually closer to the Rainwater Road side of the park than the community center side where we are now. But it's a nice quick walk and it's a great day. So I encourage you all to stay for the tour. Okay. A little bit of background. It is the unnamed, reach of stream that this project is on is an unnamed tributary to Perry Creek. Perry Creek is a TMDL watershed. The pollutant, or it's impaired for the biologic or aquatic life biologic condition. And the measure was the benthic habitat. So it's very important that we address some of the water quality concerns in a watershed like this. The drainage basin to the project area is 122 acres, and 13% of that is impervious area. It's a highly developed. It's been developed for a while, so a lot of existing development that was put in place before a lot of the stormwater regulations came into place. It, like I mentioned, within a park setting, but it's interesting because it's kind of in the, you know, not near the community center, so it's not maintained on like some of the more popular parts of the park. And it's more natural, not to say that it's not maintained, but it's a more natural setting. There's a large sewer easement in the area. And also historically, the whole project site was an area that was behind the earthen dam, and the dam was removed in the 1980s. So there were some legacy sediments, which we'll talk about as we get into the project. So the initial project, 2018, 2019 timeframe, maybe before that it was identified, but a lot of the work in 2018, 2019, the problem, the channel was largely in size. So in the upper reach, it was 5 to 6 feet in size. Lower reach, it was up to 10 to 12 feet in size. So you can see from some of these pictures how severe it was. So obviously a lot of stream bank erosion with that. And as I mentioned, due to the historic use of the area, the impoundment, there was substantial sand and fine gravels being transported from the upstream area. So a lot of sediment issues. And so the goals of the first project was to stabilize and rehabilitate the stream, improve water quality, provide a floodplain connection on the park property, and also look into low cost, low impact stream restoration techniques where they could minimize the area of impact, but still solve the stream erosion and incision issue. So this was a partnership, I should also mention, with NC State and Sea Grant. And then there was also a grant through the formerly known Clean Water Management Trust Fund, now the North Carolina Land and Water Fund, to implement this project. So it was great that it was a partner project. And the solution was to design these innovative grade control structures, which are basically boulder structures, but they were specifically designed to dissipate the energy, redirect the flow away from the banks and towards the middle of the stream, reduce bank erosion. And then, kind of importantly was to trap the sand and gravel behind the structures so that eventually it could fill up and, get closer to that floodplain bench elevation. So, and then that would help prevent any bank erosion down the road. And that gets at the gradual rebuilding of the channel bed. Again, mentioning the grant partners, the NC State was in charge of the design, permitting, bidding, and the monitoring after construction. And the city, from my understanding, was the grant implementer. And also, I didn't forget to mention, I should call out Heather Dutra and Kevin Ford were the people involved with the initial part of the project. So if there's any questions that I can't answer, I might be turning to them. So here's some projects kind of in the, or some pictures of the project in the interim between when it was built in 2019 and 2023. So you can see post-construction, the structures looked great. The area was vegetated, but you can notice it's still kind of a narrow stream, a little bit entrenched. But the model showed that that was supposed to get fixed if the sediment was to deposit on the backside of the structure. However, there are some issues. So you go to the picture on the right, and you can see that some of the structures failed, especially the ones in the lower half of the reach. And there was some bank erosion, which we wanted to fix with this. So, here's another picture of some structures that have failed and some scour and bank erosion in 2022. So NC State did a model, and this model was a 2D HEPRAS model. So it looked at all of the, and also looked at some of the sediment capacity with the stream, as well as the velocity and shear stresses using the as-built survey from after the construction. So it showed that there was very high velocity and turbulent recirculation, especially on the downstream side of these structures. So ultimately, even though in the upstream reach, it was showing deposition behind the structures, once it got to the steeper portion and the velocity and shear stress were a little greater, that constant recirculation was just causing sediment not to deposit, and therefore the stream bed was not elevating at the rate that was initially modeled. So it was resulting in scour and erosion around the structures, and since the bed wasn't building up, the floodplain connection wasn't there. And like I mentioned, the sediment deposition was in the lower velocity area, so in the upstream reach. It was determined that some of the rock structures weren't quite placed, weren't keyed into the banks as far as they should be in order to withstand some of those, the high velocity and shear stress at high. So just some images from the modeling that was done. And that paved the way for the second project in 2022, where we were taking all this information, but also looking at solutions that would lessen the impact to the park area or where the reach is, because there are a lot of trees. So we wanted to be mindful of what we were proposing. So the solution for the repair project was to use the sediment on site to help build up the stream bed around each structure. And that would help reduce the elevation drop over that structure and prevent that recirculation and scouring out. And ensure that these structures were effectively tied in to both ends of the stream bank. And then all of this, we would be promoting floodplain connection through a graded bench, and that sediment that was graded out to create a floodplain bench was used to create that bed elevation in the stream. So it did cut down on the amount of dirt that had to be hauled off the site, And we reused all of the boulder structures that we could, minimizing the amount of new structures that we had to buy for this project. So ultimately, the design reduced the velocities and shear stresses while balancing out construction costs. So this is the design plan for the repair project. And flow is moving from left to right. And the area of the floodplain bench is in green. It gets a little bit narrower towards the downstream end because we had to tie back into the project. And then 11 of the in-stream structures were repaired. So it's pretty much all of them except for one that was placed on a tributary to this ridge. So here's some photos from the 2024 construction. It was constructed from the upstream reach to the downstream reach. And I have a timeline at the end, but the construction window was about 3 months. So it was done pretty quickly. And some more photos of those boulder structures being placed, and you can see the toiler fabric, and this is before the planting. There was substantial planting involved with this project. We had a public meeting actually in this room about 2 years ago where we wanted to inform the community about this project, let them know it was happening. But also there was a limited amount of input we could get from the community, but we wanted to get their feedback. So one of the ideas was to have a suggested list of tree planting for the riparian area and then the overbank area and get their feedback on what they prefer, what they wanted to see out there, because a lot of the residents in the area use it as a walking path in nature. So we highlighted some of the benefits of each of the species listed and then kind of tallied up the total and used that in our planting plan. So a couple notes about tree maturity. The image on the left is right after the construction of the 2019 project. And then the image on the right is the trees 4 years after. So you can see how relatively quickly, even though they were pretty small plantings at the time, really grew up. And some of the trees that remained in the area also ended up dropping some seedlings too to help revegetation. So this most recent phase, the revegetation is still in process. So the trees are still relatively small, but they are alive and they are starting to bud now that it's spring. And the grass, you can kind of see right after construction before planting was done. Planting was done in April 2024. And then I was out earlier this week and just took some pictures. You can see that they're starting to come back from the dormant season and the grass is coming back. So, but it's not, a full forest yet. That'll take years. So just a little bit of project timeline and cost. This is for the repair project. As I mentioned, it was a relatively quick construction timeline. The design and permitting took almost a year, and we had to bid the project. January 2024 to April 2024 was construction, and then the 1-year warranty period just ended. The cost of the relook at the project, relook at the model, the design and the permitting was about 115, and the construction cost of the repair was $245,000. So I believe the grant amount for and the project amount of the first phase of the project was about with the design, monitoring, and construction was about $200,000. So all in all, if you combine both projects, it's still under $600,000, and it's 700 linear feet of stream. So it's a lot of tree planting. So there have already been some opportunities to do some outreach with this project. The Millbrook High School, just right next door, they have a sustainability agriculture training session for their students. So we were in touch with the teacher and took the class out for a tour. It was just after the plants were planted, and I was a little nervous that it wasn't going to be done in time, but lo and behold, everything was done, and they had some great questions about the overall project and particularly how the plants were chosen, and how we as project managers go about making sure that plants, especially the trees, remain healthy. And I will say the design consultant for the repair project is EPR, and a construction company or a construction contractor was KBS Earthworks. And they were in charge of making sure that the plants survived the hot summer months just after they got planted. So some takeaways from the two projects within one is don't underestimate velocity and shear stress when it comes to stream restoration or repair projects. Also, sediment transport analysis is super important. Also understanding the history of that site location and what could potentially be some of the root causes of some of that sediment that's in the stream. Also, the grant partnership with NC State was great. They did the work for the first one and came up with this innovative idea that basically is still in place. It's just kind of a 2.0 version. So the public engagement, not only at the, before the project gets constructed, providing some input, or opportunities for residents to provide input on the project, but also being able to use it as a living classroom for high schools and other schools nearby is really important, and what's really awesome about these kind of projects. So, there's a website. You can search Millbrook Exchange Stream Repair Project. Also, feel free to contact me if you have any questions, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing it in person, I guess. Does anybody have any questions? Before we get out? Okay.
Yeah.
Just one quick comment. Yeah, I think this is a great example of one of these multi-benefit projects. It's kind of driven by the stream bank erosion, right? And you remember the big channels and all this sediments getting washed down. But the other thing that kind of channel does is it makes flooding worse downstream because it just conveys all this flow very quickly. If you look at this picture, it's a lot shallower channel. So when it floods, it goes over the floodplain bench and into the banks and creates a lot more storage. So it really helps mitigate downstream flooding as well. So great example of a multi-benefit quantity and quality benefit project.
I also love the benefits to the benthic macroinvertebrates you talked about for the impaired stream down the way. Holding back all that sediment is huge for that. So I love that too.
Yeah, great to see.
Is there much of a maintenance component with this or not?
So no, and that also is with the kind of natural solution of it. And also it's in a part of the park that isn't necessarily maintained on a regular basis.
Okay.
It's more natural setting. So we knew going into it, it's not like there'll be maintenance people visiting it every 2 weeks, to water the plants. So and that also helped inform the plant species selection too. So.
I was sort of wondering, I should have been more specific with the sediment dropping out. Are you gonna have to go back and move the sediment at some points in the future or not?
So I don't think so. And the models that the design engineer did, because they also remodeled the stream reach. And some of those scour pools that were created with the repair project are pretty deep.
Oh.
So it is designed to capture that sediment. So yeah, so they looked at the sediment transfer analysis that NC State modeled and incorporated that into the design. Yeah.
Thanks.
Could you talk about the tour, just do we want to meet out front?
Yeah.
5 minutes after adjournment and
Yeah.
those who can join?
Yeah, and we'll meet out front and we walk down just a pathway, and then we go a little off-roading. So, but it's pretty manageable walking, so.
We do have a list of some preliminary topics for upcoming meetings. To scroll through that a little bit, there are 3 items that from loosely scheduled for May and possibly that rezoning case as well in May. Looking at some rainwater rewards policy updates in June. In June, we'll also start working on a work plan for the following year. So that typically we kind of have a visioning session. Maybe last year we had it with Scott kind of leading a facilitated discussion. We do often mirror city councils, they take July, or they skip a meeting in July, so they get an extended break. We oftentimes, also our first meeting sometimes lands on or around July 4th. I think this year will be July 3rd. So we're loosely looking at not doing a meeting in July, so just a heads up on that. Everybody wanted to be here over the holiday. The flood early warning system, we're looking at, kind of as we get into the hurricane season, we talked about that in August and then updating the work plan. Control, do you have anything? There's any, I guess, open up to any topics anybody wants to bring up, just real quick, just remember, moment.
One big event announcement, we're doing this for the Walnut Creek Wetland Center and Sound Rivers and Partners for Environmental Justice are hosting a creek walk in Walnut Creek. We just put out the registration page, so no one here has heard of it yet, but I'll share it with maybe Scott and Wayne if folks want to come. It's gonna be the 13th, so it's coming up, it's spring. And we're gonna get everyone in waders and in the creek talking about water quality and things like that.
Nice. Okay, well, I guess, anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Motion, second. Well, second, okay, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you all.